Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a website using WebStarts and then give you some best practices in order to create a structure to that website that will help you get the most out of it. So to get started, go to webstarts.com and then click on sign up. It's free. And to get started, be sure to choose a template. If you choose a template that looks similar to what you want your final product to be or your final website to look like, then it will help you get there a lot faster. So I'm going to choose this one here to get started and then enter my name and along with my email address, and then choose a password. Verify that you're not a robot. And then click continue. In this next step, you'll choose a subdomain name for your website. That's really anything that you want to call it. For this, I'm going to call mine Demo 10. You can also choose to upgrade your website during sign up and choose a top level domain like your very own domain.com, or use a domain name that you previously registered elsewhere. Click continue to move to the next step. Now that you're looking at what we call the dashboard, you can get in and begin editing your pages by clicking on Edit Website. Now you're looking at what's called the page editor, and in the page editor is the place that you can make changes to the pages of your website. Notice you can choose which page you would like to edit by selecting it from the drop-down menu in the top left. If you'd like to create a new page, you can do that at any time by clicking on the new page icon. And the way WebStarts works is we give you the ability to either create a blank page or make a copy of one of your existing pages, and then that gives you a leg up on getting that next page started. To do that, you just select the page that you would like to create a copy from, give the new page a name, and then click Create Page. And then the page is created and you can begin to make edits and changes to that page within the editor. But for this demo, we want to edit the home page, so I'm selecting the home page from the drop-down menu. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of a WebStarts page. It's essentially divided into three sections. The top section, which is called the header, the middle section that we call the body, and that's the main section your content appears, and then this bottom section called the footer. Notice the header and the footer, when selected, are highlighted in green. Any elements that you drag to either the header or footer will appear on either the top or the bottom of each page. So for example, if I want this logo for my business to appear in the top left on every page, I would drag it up here and I would place it into my header, and then I would save and publish my changes by clicking on the save icon. What this does is it allows a consistent navigation experience for your site visitors, so when they go to your website, they always know how to find their way around, and it also serves as a reminder that they're still on your website and haven't navigated elsewhere. You can drag things into the footer down here at the bottom. Like for example, if I want to add a little bit of text, I can drag that into my footer, but I need to select it first and then hold the shift key on the keyboard. And what that does is it prevents that element from pushing the bottom of the page down. So if I normally just drag that into the footer, you can see it just increases the body section of my page. You can choose whether to display your header and footer by selecting View and then clicking on Show Header and Show Footer, and then you can bring those back doing the same thing. In the WebStarts page editor, you'll notice a few guidelines. These guidelines run vertically on either side of your web page, and then of course you have a guideline at the top of your page as well as the bottom. Now earlier we covered that the top of the page is the header section of your website and the bottom is the footer. Now the top and bottom guidelines simply indicate where the header and the footer start, but these Vertical guidelines that run on either side of the page are also important. Now, you can drag elements outside of these guidelines, but we don't recommend it. The reason we don't recommend it is simply because it's not going to allow your web page to look good on every single laptop and computer screen. If you stay within these guidelines, then no matter how big or small your computer screen is, chances are you're going to see all of the content of the web page, and it's going to provide a good and consistent experience for your website visitor. If you decide to drag elements, let's say for example this button, outside of the guideline, you'll receive that warning saying, hey, this might not provide the best experience for some people that have smaller screens. And that's essentially what could happen. So if this is way over here and then somebody has a small screen, they might not see that element. And if that involves your menu or some other important piece of information on your website, that means people on smaller screens aren't going to see it. So be sure to work within these guidelines in order to provide the best experience for your site visitors. If you find yourself needing to increase the height of your page, you can do that a few different ways. One is you can drag an element. For example, let me add a text box, drag an element into the footer, and the footer will automatically be pushed down the page. The second way is that you can click on this little plus icon and it will add some space to the bottom of your page. And then the last way, in the same way that I'm shrinking up this page now, you can click and hold the guideline and drag it down the page. You can drag it up as well if you want to remove space from the bottom of a page. So let's talk a little bit about the website navigation menu. The navigation menu is the way that people find their way around your website. So by providing navigation, they can click on a page name and then be taken to that page. You can see here that I've highlighted the navigation menu on this page, and you see that the selection is green, and that means that it's placed in the header and that it will be displayed at the top of every page. So right now, if I go to the published version of my website, I can see that I have the different page names, and when I click on them, I go to each page, but you can find those page names in the same place on every single page of my site. That makes it easy to navigate. If those are in different places, then it becomes troublesome for the person visiting your website to find their way around, and that's why I really want to recommend that you put your navigation menu in the header. You can put your navigation menu wherever you want. You can drag it out of the header and just have it on a different place on each page, but that's not going to provide the best experience for your site visitors. You can also click on the settings cog of the menu, and then you can choose to display the menu vertically, and so it will run up and down the side of the page. If the selection is red, that means that the element is going to be displayed in that same location on every page, but that it is not located in the header or footer, so it's kind of all by itself displayed on every page. So now if you see the changes I made to my site, that menu or navigation is displayed in the same spot on every single page. But you can also see that when I did that, it's covering a few of the photos a little bit, and it really isn't the best experience. So the best thing I can recommend you to do is use a vertical menu or a horizontal menu, and then leave that up here in the header. You can rearrange some of these page names. So for example, if I want the pages to be listed in a different order, I can come over here to the pages icon, and then all I need to do is drag these pages into a different order. You can also choose whether you want a specific page to be visible on the menu. Right now I have my home page, for example, hidden, and so there's a little slash through an I here, but when I click on that, the slash goes away, and now you can see that my home page is displayed on my menu. I can also customize the names that my pages use, but only on the menu, and I can do that by clicking on the settings cog and then changing the name of the page. Let me show you that with the services page. I'm going to change it to our services. So when I change that to our services and I click the update button, you can see that now the page name is our services in the navigation menu. You can also create submenus. The way that you do that is you take a primary page. For example, I'm going to take the about page and I'm going to drag the contact page to the right and underneath the about page. And here you can see there's a little drop down menu, and now if I save that and look at my live website, you can see that there's a little drop down menu and I can select the contact page from that. To turn that contact page from a sub page back to a main page, I just need to drag it over to the left once again. You can tier the pages at least 3 levels deep. So for example, I have about, save that, show you what that looks like. So what do I mean by 3 tiers? About, contact, our services, 3 tiers deep. And just the same way that we remove the contact from being a sub page, we can remove our services and contact from being sub pages and a 3rd tier page. Another thing you can do with your menu is you can link to an external page, and you can also link to another place on your website using an anchor link. If you want to do that, click on Add and choose Link, then give the link a name. So for example, if I wanted to link out to Google, I would type Google in there, and then I would provide a link to Google right here. Whoops. If I can figure out how to spell it. And then click Create Link, Add Link, and now there'll be a link to Google on the website. I don't want to have a link to Google, so I'm just going to select that and remove the link. You can see the way that I did that. If I want to link to an anchor location or another place on my website using the anchor tool, I can do that by clicking Add and then dropping an anchor. And let's say, for example, I want to take somebody here when they click on a certain item in my menu. Then I go back over to my pages, I click on Add, and I click Link, and then I'm going to say Test Anchor just for the sake of this demo. I click here to add that link. I choose Anchor. I choose an anchor on my home page, and that anchor is called Anchor 1, so I click Create Link, Add Link. Now I'll save my changes and look at my live website, and then I'll show you what that looks like when you click on Test Anchor. It just drops the page down to wherever you included the anchor. So wherever you put this anchor is where that link in particular will take you. So you can add multiple anchors to any page of your site and anywhere on your website. So it's a pretty neat little feature. There are some situations where you may not want a menu to appear at all on your website. Let's say, for example, you're doing a cover page and you want to direct the flow of traffic through a specific route and you don't want them to jump from place to place on your website. In those instances, you can select the menu and then click the delete option and then confirm that you'd like to delete the menu, and then it'll be completely removed from all the pages of your site. If you'd like to bring it back, go back over to the add icon on the left sidebar, find menu, which is down here at the bottom, and then click on it and it will be re-added to the page. You'll then need to reposition the menu just like so. When working with WebStarts, it's important to always remember that elements are stacked in layers. So that means that you can place one element on top of another. Let me show you an example. I click on Insert Box, and then I drag this box over this text, and then that text and the other content will disappear. I can change the order of these layers by using the Bring to Front, bring forward, send backward, and send to back options that are attached to any element. What that will let me do is send any of those elements, let's say, for example, to the back. So that element is still on my page. It's just buried underneath these other layers. So be careful not to hide things using the layer function. If you ever get lost, you can kind of get an idea of where your elements are by clicking edit and then select all, and then all the elements on your page will be highlighted. So sometimes you'll notice that maybe there's something like right here that you would like to get rid of because you're not even sure it's there, or change the layer so that it's in the front. It's best practice to make text boxes the top layer of your web pages. That way you can double click in those text boxes and make changes without having to rearrange your layers. Another thing to keep in mind is that elements can be attached to one another. For example, this text is actually attached to this background box, and the reason that we do that is so that you can move multiple elements at the same time without having to reposition each one individually. So for example, if I drag this, I can also attach it to the background photo here with the tomatoes and the carrot, or I can drag it back here and attach it to this box. Whatever you attach it to, it's just going to move the other elements that are attached to the same element all together at the same time, just like you see there. One thing you may find helpful is to enable element position. You can do this by clicking on View and then clicking on Element Position. Once that's enabled and you select an element and drag it, notice the exact coordinates of that element are displayed in the top right while that element is selected. Also, if you select an element and you resize it, it will display the exact width and height in pixels. Both of these functions will help you make better decisions, not only about where to position elements on your page, but also how to size those elements appropriately. Now that we have made some edits and changes to existing elements, let's talk about how you can add new elements to your page. The easiest way to do this is to click on the add icon, and then if you'd like to add text, you would click on text, and then you would select whether this text is going to be like a heading or a headline, or maybe it's just going to be a medium paragraph text. Once you select the text that you would like to add, it appears on your page, and you can then drag and drop it wherever you would like it to go. If you want to change the contents of that text box, you can do that in the same way that you did earlier when we edited the contents of this text box here. You can delete any element just by clicking on it so that it's selected and then clicking on the red X. If you want to add an image, you can do it in the same fashion. Click on Add, then click on Image, and then choose the image from your file manager. And of course you can use the handles to resize that image, and you can drag that image where you would like it to appear. Notice whenever you drag an image or text over what we call a strip, which is this background piece, it attaches to that strip. We do that so that when you drag that entire strip, it'll keep all of the attached elements in the same relative position with one another. Otherwise, you would have to drag those elements one at a time and realign them with each other every time you wanted to move even so much as a pixel. An easy way to add groups of content is to add what we call content blocks to your website. You can do that by clicking on Add and then going to Content Blocks and then choosing the category of content block that you would like to add to the site. So for example, if I want to add one of these content sections, I click on Content, and then I find a layout that includes both text and photos, and then I click on that layout. It's added to the bottom of my page, and all the elements within that layout or that content block are attached to one another, so when I drag the entire content block, all of the elements move with it. Of course, all those elements move individually as well, just like I demonstrated earlier. And of course, you can double click on the images and double click on the text in order to make edits and changes to them. Now, there are times where you would like to create some space on your page and you want to push all of the elements below a certain spot down the page. To do this, select on the element or section, then take the top handle of that element and then drag it down the page. And what that will do is it will open up some space while keeping all of the elements below that space relative with one another, so you don't have to reposition them. You can then come back in here and you can add some content to that section. If you'd ever like to expand a section, you can click on that section and then click on the resize handle and drag it down the page. It will move all of the elements below the handle down the page while increasing the size of the section where you would like to add some new content, or if you would just like to add some white space. Removing an element from the page is as simple as clicking on the element and then clicking on the red X. You can bring the element back by clicking the undo. Double-click on elements in the WebStarts editor in order to see some more options. For example, double-click on the icon and you'll have the option to replace that icon with one from the icon library. Double-click on an image and you can swap it out with an image from the image library. You can edit text by double-clicking on it and then the text WYSIWYG will appear. You can change the style of all the text just by changing the style tag, or you can make changes to the individual text just by choosing something like, for example, the font size, the color, or you can choose even to make a hyperlink by selecting text and then clicking on the hyperlink tool and then choosing where you would like that text to link. Advanced users will find it helpful to make changes to styles on a site-wide basis. You can do this by clicking on the Design tab and then choosing what style you would like to set. For example, you can set the heading L style tag to a different font size, like let's say a larger one, and when you change it here, it will increase the size for every text that has that style applied to it across your website. Likewise, you can change things like the font weight, and you can even go down here and you can change things like the line spacing and character spacing. Going back to the other text styles, you can do this with just about everything. You can change even, for example, the default color of hyperlinks. If you want to change the default color scheme, you can do that by selecting a color scheme from the Design tab. Once you choose that scheme and you select an element, you'll notice that the color palette is the suggested color palette that's made available at the top of the color tool. You can always get access to your grayscale as well as your standard colors, customize colors, or get a particular color from an image. If you have multiple products that you would like to sell on your website, then the best thing you can do is add a store to your website. Now, this template already has a store on it, and you can see that because store appears in the menu. I'm going to navigate to my store page and show you how you can set up a database of products in your store. From the store manager, start by selecting a plan that makes sense for you. You can get started with the free plan and upgrade later. With WebStarts Store app, we automatically configure your store to accept credit card payments using a service called WePay. Upon setting up your store, you receive an email from WePay that links you to a form that you can fill out with your bank information so they know where to send your money. But this way you're able to begin processing transactions immediately. Click on Add Your First Product and then give your product a name and give your product a price, a description, and choose an image for your product. For this demo, I'm just going to use a WebStarts t-shirt as a demo product. I'm going to say it's $20. Give it a description, and then I'm going to upload the image for that WebStarts t-shirt from my local computer. Now that that image is uploaded, I choose to add it. You can add multiple images for your product, and they'll all be displayed on your website, but for this demo, I'm just adding the one. I click continue, and then it asks me if I would like to set up shipping. I'm going to say yes. This shirt's going to weigh 1 pound, so I enter 1 pound. Your shipping will be automatically calculated on UPS base rates if you don't choose to customize or set up your own unique shipping. When I'm ready, I click create product, and that product is now in my store database. I can see what that looks like on my live website by saving the changes and then clicking view site. Now when somebody goes to my store, they'll see my product that I'm selling, and when they click on it, they'll have the option to see the details as well as add it to the cart and then check out. You can change some of the appearance of the store by selecting the store, clicking on the settings icon, choosing the number of products you'd like displayed in a row and the number of columns of products you'd like displayed on your site, or maybe you'd like to display a fit version of your image, and maybe you'd like to change the aspect ratio. When you receive an order on your online store, you'll be notified via email, but there are really a lot of options that have to do with the store, and you can find those options by clicking on Store, Manage Store, and then click More Settings. This will put you into the WebStarts store dashboard, and from there you can do everything from manage your products to set up an email marketing campaign. You can even do things like change your shipping method and your payment method, as well as manage your store shipped from address, and just a whole lot more. Here you can see the total number of sales and your orders that you received on a given day as well. Similar to the way that you would add or manage a store, you can add and manage a blog from the WebStarts page editor by clicking on the blog icon. That will launch the Manage Blog modal, and in that modal you'll see any blog posts that you've previously written, like the ones I have here. If you want to go back in and edit those, you just click on the edit icon. But for this demo, I'm going to show you how to create a new post. You do that just by clicking New Post and then giving your blog a title. And then you can also give your blog an author name, but then you can just begin to share your story in your blog. And when you create a new line, notice you'll be able to add an image or a video to your blog post. So if I wanted to add this image of this WebStarts t-shirt, I can do that. When you're ready to publish your blog, just click Publish Post. If you want to save your blog and come back and finish it later, you can do that as well by clicking Save as Draft. Notice over here that when my text is selected, I have my text formatting options like bold, italic, the ability to create a hyperlink, give it a heading 1 tag, or make it a call out. I click Publish Post just to show you what that looks like. There you can either share your blog post on Facebook, Twitter, or through your email. And now that my blog post has been created, if I escape out of this, make sure I save any changes that I've made to my site, and then view my live site and click on blog, you'll be able to see my latest blog posts. And by clicking on read more, you'll be able to get into the details of each post and see those as well. One thing you'll definitely want to do with your website is add a top-level domain name. When you signed up for a free WebStarts account, you chose a unique subdomain name under the webstarts.com URL. So, for example, I might have demo10.webstarts.com. To get your own custom domain name like webstartsstore.com, you would click Add Domain, upgrade to one of the paid accounts, and then choose to either register a brand new domain name or select that you would like to link a domain name with your WebStarts website that you've already registered elsewhere. If you're registering a domain name for the first time through WebStarts, then that domain name will be automatically configured if it's available after you choose the check availability option. If you're linking a domain name that you purchased elsewhere, you'll need to log in to wherever you purchased it and update the name servers for that domain name to ns1.webstarts.com and ns2.webstarts.com. Once you've made those changes, that domain name will automatically begin working with WebStarts, provided you've added it in this section and upgraded your account. After you've added a domain name to your WebStarts website, you can then get a custom email address by clicking on the custom email address option. This will give you something like adam@webstarts.com, and it looks a lot more professional than using a Gmail or Yahoo email address for your business. It's relatively inexpensive to add this feature, and all you need to do is click on this app and go through the process of setting up each email account that you would like to use. At WebStarts, we also offer an app called Google Listing Express that gets your website listed amongst Google's search engine results right away. But before you do it, I would like to recommend that you go in to edit your site and be sure that you've added a page title, meta description, and keywords for each of your pages. That'll give you the best chance to show up high for the keywords and phrases that people use when searching for your products and services on Google. You can do this by going to apps and then walking through the SEO wizard. Now, the first step of any search engine optimization is keyword research. That's simply knowing which keywords and phrases people are likely to type into a search engine like Google to find your products and services. So those are the keywords that you would enter here in the first step. They could be the name of your business. A lot of times they're the name of the service that you offer. And once you've added up to 10 keywords, be sure to click continue. In this next step, you're going to write a paragraph about your business. It's going to say something like, be sure to use the keywords in a natural way when writing your paragraph text to give yourself a better chance of showing up high in the search engine rankings. When you're ready, click continue. And this final step, you're going to add a title for your page. That's just going to be something like what your page is about. And when you're ready, click continue, and those changes are applied to your page. Now that your website is fully search engine optimized and you've added a domain name and structured it properly, you should be good to go. But this video is really just the tip of the iceberg of all the great features that WebStarts has to offer. So be sure to check out webstarts.com not only to create your very own website, but also to see more helpful videos like this. Thanks for watching.